All right, welcome. Today, we've got a farm animal showdown that I bet you didn't see coming. In this corner, you've got the heavyweight champion of agriculture, the absolute titan, the cow. And in the other corner, we've got a rugged, high-altitude challenger, the yak. So if you're thinking about livestock, cattle are probably the first thing that pops into your head, right? They're the default for meat and dairy. But what if there's a tougher, more efficient, and maybe even a more profitable alternative hiding out there? We're going to break down the costs head to head and see if the yak is the unsung hero of the pasture. Okay, let's dive right into round one, the daily feed bill. This is one of the biggest, most consistent costs for any farmer. So, how do our two contenders stack up when it's time to eat? Well, here's the thing. Yaks are basically built for efficiency. They evolved in really harsh environments, which means their bodies are just better at getting the most out of their food. They have lower metabolic needs, so they can thrive on a lot less, and that translates directly into saving money. And what does that look like in dollars and cents? For one yak, you're looking at an annual feed cost of just $200 to $400. That's a remarkably low number, especially when you compare it to our other contender. Because for a cow, that annual feed bill more than doubles. You're suddenly in the neighborhood of $500 to $1,000 per year. That is a massive, massive difference, making the yak the clear winner when it comes to the grocery bill. But the spending doesn't stop there. Let's talk about healthcare. Yaks are famously tough, you know? They're super disease resistant, especially in colder climates. That means way lower vet bills. We're talking maybe $50 to $100 a year. Cattle, on the other hand, can be a bit more fragile, needing more care, which can push their health costs up to 3 times higher every single year. Okay, so the yak has a huge lead on the daily running costs. But what about the big upfront investments? Let's move on to round two and talk about the costs of land and a place to live. And once again, that mountain heritage gives the yak a serious advantage. They need less land per animal, and this is the big one, they are perfectly happy on rough, hilly land that might be totally useless for cattle. And you know what that means? That land is usually a whole lot cheaper to buy or rent. Now, let's talk housing. For cattle, you need the whole shebang. We're talking solid barns, really strong fences that they're not going to push over, windbreaks, the works. It is a serious, expensive, upfront investment. And for the yak, with that thick, woolly coat, they're basically wearing their own house. They really don't need much more than a simple wall to block the wind. The difference is just incredible, and the savings on construction alone can be enormous. All right, the yak is looking like an absolute financial champion when it comes to costs. But let's be honest, farming isn't just about saving money, it's about making money. So for round three, let's look at where the cash comes from, the market. The yak's entire business model is built around high-end, niche products. The meat is lean and has this amazing flavor, and their fiber is a luxury good, kind of like cashmere. You can get premium prices for this stuff, but here's the catch. You have to find those specialty buyers. The market is just smaller. Cattle, though, they are the definition of mainstream. There is a huge, stable, global demand for beef and dairy. The entire system, from farm to grocery store, is already built. It's a volume game, and you're pretty much guaranteed to have buyers. So how does that shake out for the yearly income? Well, even though yak products can be high value, the incredible scale and demand for cattle products mean a single cow can often bring in more revenue at the top end. This is where the sheer power of the mainstream market really flexes its muscle for cattle. Okay, so we've looked at feed, health, housing, and revenue. The yak is the undisputed champ of low costs, while cattle have the market on their side. So it's time to bring it all together for the final verdict. And when you lay out all the numbers side by side like this, well, the story becomes crystal clear. Across every single cost category you can think of, feed, land, healthcare, buildings, yaks are consistently and significantly the more economical animal to raise. The numbers really do speak for themselves here. So the big takeaway here is pretty straightforward. As the source material puts it so well, the yak is an attractive alternative specifically for people who want to run a lower cost operation and are willing to connect with those specialty markets. So who wins the big showdown? Well, the truth is there isn't one single winner. The better animal really depends on you, the farmer. If you've got rugged land, live somewhere cold, and you want to run a lean business serving a niche audience, the yak is an incredible choice. But if you've got great pasture and want to tap into a huge, stable market, cattle are still the king. And that kind of leaves us with this one big, fascinating question. As we think about the future of agriculture, where's the real opportunity? Is it in making the massive, mainstream machine even more efficient, or is it in exploring these resilient, efficient alternatives that can thrive where others can't? That's definitely something to chew on. Thanks for watching.
Want to raise healthy yaks and avoid costly mistakes? Get your copy of How to Raise Yaks by Gerard Don in the description box below and discover everything you need to turn your yak farming dream into a profitable reality.